Hi, long time no see.
It really has been a while. It's been, 10 months since the last time I've talked to you. So how you been? What's new?
I know I've been a little bit out of action, but I've been working a lot. This is the place that I work in. You can see all these guitars and stuff here, and I'm sitting at a drum kit right now.
Well, darn. I asked the question only to immediately realize I didn't care about the answer, so let's skip the introductions and get right to why you are mad at Bearing today.
And the reason I wanted to make this is because I was on Twitter this morning, and motherfucking Blair White, I swear to God, Jesus Christ, you know what I'm really just sick to death of is...
Opinionated trans women.
Online bullies and harassers.
Damn it, didn't see that one coming. It's just that I'm so unaccustomed to listening to you bitch about cyberbullying and internet harassment.
Minimizing the harm that they do to others and trying to make excuses for the bullshit that they pull.
So, in whatever your upcoming example is, Blair has caused someone harm and then made excuses for herself. This should be easy enough to demonstrate, so the floor is yours.
The thing about bullying, and I've talked about this so many times, is it's like it's an imbalance of power. You have one person and another person, and sure, if one person says something mean to another person, that's not necessarily bullying.
I find it a bit telling that you need to prime your viewers with what bullying is prior to actually giving the example of bullying, almost as if the example of bullying would not have been thought of as bullying had you not given this primer. But hey, I'm a stickler for definitions. Go ahead and define bullying. If it's not merely saying mean words to someone, then what is it? It has something to do with an imbalance of power plus an action. What is the nature of an action that would be considered bullying?
But when one person who has a large audience and a large amount of influence, which comes along with that audience, does something that leads to that audience dogpiling a person. This is a very specific example, but this is what happens. A person makes a tweet about someone, or they make a video about someone, and then that audience goes to that other person and heaps abuse and harassment on that person. That's bullying.
So whether or not any particular action is bullying doesn't depend on the action, but whether or not that action is perceived as a cue by other people, who then perform malicious actions. A person can be a bully accidentally and without intending malice, because bully best describes someone who doesn't engage in malicious behavior. Unless you're arguing that the action is by its nature malicious because it served as a cue for others. In which case, literally any action can be malicious. As a stickler for definitions, I need to take issue with this because you've so broadly defined bully, it no longer has a useful meaning. If any action is potentially bullying, why would anyone care whether or not they're a bully? By extension, if you're implying that this kind of bullying is by its nature malicious, why would anyone care whether or not they're malicious? It's bad enough that you've tossed out intent and are holding people responsible for the actions of others, but you're also degrading the usefulness of language as a communication tool. I see no practical reason to accept this notion of bullying. Beyond that, how would you rectify the situation? If every time Blair tweets at anyone, that person gets harassed, what does Blair need to do about this? Just not tweet at anyone? Get a smaller audience? Maybe we should start implementing social media communism, wherein everyone has the exact same follower count no matter what. That way there wouldn't be an imbalance of power, and, per your definition, there wouldn't be any bullying. Everyone equal, comrade. Frankly, I don't see how this possibly couldn't work.
When you know that the actions that you are undertaking lead to the harm of another person, that's bullying. That's what you are doing. You are being a bully.
Do you differentiate between leading to harm, inciting harm, and causing harm? Because these are three distinct concepts that should be treated differently, yet you've lumped these under the same term, bullying, and seem to be giving each of these actions equal moral weight.
You are actively harming another person with your actions, because your actions have consequences. When you do a thing and it leads to another thing, that is the consequence of your actions.
Thank you for making yourself clear on this point. There is no relevant distinction between me causing harm and anyone who follows me causing harm. If someone who follows me does something malicious, that is the same as me having done something malicious. This comes off as a totally fair and just way of passing judgment on a person.
And, for example, say that you knew that eating a cherry...
Rowlands is about to make the argument that eating cherries can be done maliciously. I have never been as excited for an analogy in my entire life.
And, for example, say that you knew that eating a cherry made some dude called Jonathan drown a kitten. Every time you ate a cherry, you knew that that would happen. Would you continue eating cherries? Oh, but I don't have control over Jonathan. I can't, make him not do that. Yeah, but every time that you eat the cherry, he goes, oh, I'm going to go drown a kitten now.
I just came. I don't think I've ever been presented with an analogy as morally bankrupt as that one, wherein someone who eats cherries is as responsible for the death of kittens as someone who murders kittens. I fail to see how someone could have came up with this analogy, thought about it, and then decided, this is a position I want to stand by.
Would you stop? Or would you just continue doing what you do because you're a pig-headed asshole?
Would I voluntarily give up my right to engage in a behavior, and encourage other people to give up their right to engage in this behavior, merely to accommodate the behavior of someone who would else be enacting violence? No, you morally vapid coward. Acquiescing to what essentially amounts to a threat is not an effective means of reducing harm. Eating the cherry is not the malicious act. Drowning the kitten is the malicious act, and if you want the most effective way of combating kitten drowning, it's addressing the person drowning the kittens. But no, holding on to my right to engage in a harmless activity makes me a pig-headed asshole because of what someone else is doing.
Because that's what's happening. And not only that, is the excuses that come from these people to try and shift the blame onto someone else.
Hey you! Stop drowning that kitten! But I'm not drowning a kitten, I'm only eating cherries. Exactly. I still can't believe that someone used that analogy and thought, boy, that was a good idea. You would have a stronger case if the large content creators that you have this problem with were specifically directing their audience to cause harm to other people. But based on the retarded cherry analogy that you provided, that's not what's happening.
Oh, it's not my fault because I don't have control over my audience. Oh, it's not that bad because it's on the internet. It's just words. It's over the internet. Stop being such a baby. Stop being so... That was the thing that happened this morning, is Blair had this tweet where she said, imagine being a grown-ass adult in 2017 and being concerned about bullying and online bullying. And I'm like, what? What?
What a heartless bitch that Blair is, encouraging people not to be offended by mean words, whereas I, the person who is trying to reduce harm, is encouraging that people remain offended by mean words. Something doesn't seem... Something's not right about this. Let me think on this for a moment.
A, why does the fact that it's 2017 make bullying any less harmful? 2, why does being an adult make bullying any less harmful?
Oh, that was it. Adults shouldn't let mean words hurt them. I don't know the nature of the cyberbullying that you and Blair are referring to in this instance, but if this is anything to go by...
It's on the internet, it's just words, it's over the internet. Stop being such a baby, stop being so...
Then it is the case that you are referring specifically to mean words on the internet. I have a whole video on unsafe words and how to handle them, and to summarize it, stop being a pussy. It's not practical to hold the speaker responsible for the reaction the listener has to the speech. From what I've gathered thus far in this video, you define cyberbullying as someone with relative social power saying mean words to someone with less social power. Well, I want people to be able to say mean words to one another, so I suppose that means, per the definition given, I am pro-cyberbullying. Even so, what Blair did is not cyberbullying, unless being critical of your conception of cyberbullying is itself cyberbullying. In which case, I'm pro that form of cyberbullying too, because I'm engaging in that behavior right now. So far in this video, you have two remarkably weak points. One being that a person can be held responsible for the actions of others, and two, that words hurt.
Wait, did you reach just a certain age and then studying? Suddenly, bullying doesn't become a problem for you because, you know, your bully gland has shrunken and doesn't work anymore. Science.
Does adulthood carry with it an assumption of maturity and personal responsibility? The maturity to not be offended by words, and the personal responsibility to, if you are offended by words, curate your own exposure to those words? If not, which seems to be your position, do you see how that could be construed as infantilizing? In essence, you are encouraging people to remain susceptible to the behavior that you are taking issue with. Someone who is interested in minimizing harm wouldn't do this. Someone who is interested in morally grandstanding might do this, but I wouldn't insinuate that about you because that would be cyberbullying.
So, I wonder if I've been covering up my microphone this whole time. That would be awkward. So, and the fact that it's online and that it's on the internet, that makes it not so bad either. Why does the medium through which the harmful words...
The medium the words take doesn't matter, but the reason cyberbullying is even less significant than bullying is that on the internet, you have so many tools to control your exposure to words that you don't like. Through the use of things like filters, mutes, blocks, and protections, you can determine what it is on the internet that you see. You have no such luxury in real life. If after implementing all of these tools you've still somehow found a way to be offended, how can you possibly think the problem isn't with you? But words, just words doesn't hurt anyone. Yes, words have meaning, and those meanings can be harmful to people, especially when there's like thousands and thousands and thousands of them piling onto you day and night. I mean, and I've been through bullying before. People say mean things to me all the time. Yeah, but you clearly, like I've said before, I doubt that any of these motherfuckers would last 1 second in the shoes of someone like Anita or Riley or Milo Stewart, that is. Why? You seem to be implying that these people receive a disproportionate amount of harassment, but why would more harassment equal more harm? At the UN, Anita described her experience with harassment as a daily grind. Surely if it is a daily grind, you would have gotten used to it at some point. Side note, really classy to minimize the severity of bullying that people like Blair and Sargon receive, while simultaneously arguing against bullying. It's almost as if you're a hypocrite.
They wouldn't last 1 second. The moment that Sargon received a bit of backlash for his years of incitement of harassment towards Anita, the whole VidCon thing.
Oh my god, please tell me you think sitting and listening to what Anita has to say constitutes bullying.
She said one little mean word about him, and the crying and the whinging about it. he wouldn't last 1 second, not 1 second, in the shoes of someone like her.
If I understand the situation correctly, Sargon was not complaining that Anita called him a mean word. Rather, he was complaining that by calling him a mean word, Anita had broken the convention's code of conduct and was not penalized for it. The objection was that the convention was applying its rules inconsistently, not that he was insulted.
And the same with, like, there was a whole thing with Shu, how the satirician made a video about her satirical SJW character, or whatever the fuck it was, and she received all these death threats and things like this, and suddenly there's a big outcry from Greg and from her and stuff. This is the shit that people like Riley and Milo and Anita and others go through every single day, and for years Anita gets it every fucking day, and she hardly bats an eyelid at this point.
Good, idiot. That's the correct response to cyberbullying.
But that's kind of beside the point.
No, that's a very important point. It demonstrates that more harassment is not equal to more harm done, which you just implied was the case.
Okay, you've got an audience of 50,000, 500,000 people, and you're receiving a couple of mean comments a day. That's nothing compared to a smaller audience like... I mean, Riley and stuff have a comparatively smaller audience compared to you, 50,000 or 100,000 maybe, and thousands and thousands of people coming and leaving abusive, hateful comments day after day after day, telling you to kill yourself, or that you're a piece of shit, or that you're not a real woman.
Michael, you are not a real woman.
Trying to what's the word? Take away your identity, basically. All these terrible, awful things, constantly. It's not the same. So, I just kind of... Blair said this thing, and it's just... It's typical bullshit bully behavior. And they continue to say, oh, no, I'm not a bully. Online bullying isn't an issue. Oh, you're such a baby. Just grow up. Just don't even worry about the words and stuff. No, you're trying to excuse away your deplorable asshole behavior that you won't take any responsibility for. Fucking grow up. Realize that your consequences have... Your consequences. Let me start again. Grow the fuck up. Realize that your actions have consequences. And take some responsibility for them.
I'm going to make you a bully. From this point forward, every time you upload a YouTube video, I'm gonna call Jeff Holiday an autistic nigger retard faggot.
I'm a burger.
Me calling Jeff Holiday an autistic nigger retard faggot will be a consequence of your future engagement on YouTube. It just so happens to be the case that I don't think Jeff is going to mind that I call him an autistic nigger retard faggot. And it's not the case that I have relative social power over him. But if your past YouTube uploads are anything to go by calling Jeff an autistic nigger retard faggot, I am marginalizing minority groups and, by extension, causing them harm. Which means you are causing minority groups harm.
And realize that no one is saying that you have control over your audience. That's not the argument. The argument is that your actions have consequences, and if you're going to continue to do things that result in the harm of other people, then you're an asshole.
I'm not saying that you control whether or not I call Jeff Holiday an autistic nigger retard faggot, and by extension hurt minority groups. What I am saying is that it's a consequence of your behavior.
You're a piece of shit, and you're an asshole, and you need to... try to take some steps to minimize that harm.
Take the steps necessary to stop me from hurting minority groups. Stop eating cherries.
Oh, but I put a disclaimer at the beginning of my video. Oh, I pay lip service to the... I say to people all the time that I don't want them bullying. But then you continue to engage in the behavior that leads to people getting bullied. So you don't care. You just pay lip service to it so that you can have plausible deniability.
That is a great precedent to set. So if you continue uploading videos to YouTube, that is evidence that you don't care about harm being done to minority groups. That's really unfortunate considering the kind of content you make, but oh well, this is the paradigm that you need to work around because someone else has imposed this limitation on you.
It's stupid, and you're a piece of shit. Blair, Sargon, Bearing, Undoomed,
Michael Rowland.
all y'all. You're just a bunch of pieces of shit who need to fucking grow up and take some responsibility for your actions.
Take responsibility for your actions. Which are actually my actions, so take my responsibility for me. That's how to not be an asshole cyberbully piece of shit. Lead by example, Michael. I'll be watching.